behind a Kinect game Recurse. So Recurse was created for and first showed at NYU's Game Center's debut No Quarter exhibition. And I think if we look at this trailer here, it should give us a really good idea of how it playfully deals with full body interaction with the video game world. Talk a bit about both that and about No Quarter in general and see what that's all about.
So the making of this game was sort of an exercise in failure leading into unexpected success. So the first thing I'm just going to say, if you're working on something and it's not working for you, keep working on it. And maybe eventually you'll fail hard enough that it'll be awesome. This game started off as an art piece. It didn't start off as a game at all. I was going to grad school for interactive art and for games. And I was really focusing on the art for this one. It was actually an attempt to make stereoscopic vision that totally failed. But I came out with a cool aesthetic out of that. And I showed that aesthetic in a show, and it got no positive feedback whatsoever. I showed two projects that I showed. One thing people loved and came over to me and told me how much they loved it. This one they said nothing positive about. One guy said, like, yeah, it's pretty nice. And then nothing came of the one that everybody said nice things about. And that one guy who said nice things about this one happened to be the head of exhibits at the New York Hall of Science, which is a science center in New York. And he asked if I wanted to show it there. He wasn't willing to give me any money for that, but he was willing to show my game. Well, at that point, piece. So we showed it there. It went over well. He asked me to make another piece for them for an exhibit called Crystal Winter. And so I changed the aesthetic to be more crystalline. And I showed them that, and they said, that's not what we want at all. We want something much more winter, much less crystal. So I made something completely different for that. Then I had this piece that I really liked and nowhere to show it. And I just happened to be asked to display something at my school. So I was like, what the hell, I got nothing else to do with this thing. So I put it up there, and it just so happened that Frank Lance, the head of the New York, the NYU Game Center, walked by and really liked it, and felt it was very game-like, but not a game. So he was like, I'd like to commission you to make a game out of this. And I was like, yes! Awesome! I totally did not intend for this to happen at all, but I love making games, and this was not meant to be a game, but I will totally make a game out of it. And so I started working on it, and Frank got bored. Moved on to more interesting projects, but he moved it on to Charles Pratt, who was a researcher at the NYU Game Center, and Charles said, as long as we're commissioning one game, why don't we commission a few games, and we'll have a night where we have an exhibition for all these games, and we'll show all these different games at once. And that became the first No Quarter event. So for those of you who were here last year, NIDHOGG, which at that time was called Raging Hadron in its original form, was another game at the original No Quarter, as was a game by Eric Zimmerman called 16 Ton, and a game called Deep Sea by Robin Arnott, which recently won the Propeller Award.
That was at E3.
And it was at E3, and apparently, interesting story, at E3, totally unrelated to my game, but still cool, Zach Gage was playing Deep Sea, and Snoop Dogg ran up in front of him and went, "Whoa!" and ran off. Deep Sea is a game where you're wearing a mask and you can't see anything. It's an audio-only game, so Zach had no idea it happened. Kind of possibly possibly the coolest moment of his life, and he was there for it. I will say making installation games is really tricky. It really adds a level of difficulty to games. I can't show this game a lot of places. It's going to be basically impossible to monetize. Every time I show it, I learn something new. Tonight I learned that the Kinect doesn't have a good enough webcam to learn in medium light, so for the second half of the evening, we'll be using the webcam version instead of the Kinect version. But yeah, if you're interested in making installation games, don't. If you really want to do it, you really want... the Copenhagen guys, as Brandon spoke about earlier, are good friends of mine, and they are super inspiring to me. And so, yeah, if you do want to make installation games, go for it. It's just be prepared for different challenges than more standard.